Hi to all of you life learners, and thanks so much for tuning in. Are you ready for a really good experience? Do you want to know how to provide a good experience to your customers, your clients, your patients, and more? Well, if so, and we suspect so, you will want to stay tuned today. So good day, everybody on YouTube who are viewing and our audio listeners. Thank you and welcome to the Business of Life Masterclass podcast here in season 8. So we are in full swing. So for our listeners and our viewers both, we ask you to please think about when was that last time that you had a really good experience? Since Barb and I are all about creating and appreciating good vibes, today's episode of the Business of Life Masterclass podcast is on how to be experience-centric while making real connections in healthcare and beyond. So hello again, everyone. It's Debbie Lundberg, Performance, Mindset, and Resilience Coach with Presenting Powerfully.
Zant here. Hello, everyone. I am a media sales leader and founder of the lifestyle brand and blog, The Stay at Work Mom. Debbie, who is our guest who can show us ways to really experience life's opportunities?
Yes. Well, Barb, she is the mother of 2 grown kids, and she told me I could say this. One is off the payroll. And she and her husband have been married for 29 years, and they have put health and healthcare as a priority for their family all this time. As a 25-year healthcare executive and administration veteran, she is known as, get this, Barb, the patient whisperer. How intriguing
Ooh.
is that? She often is the how-to for turning potential adversaries into powerful advocates. So please welcome the intently and intensely focused president of Klick Advisors, Lara Klick.
Hi, how's everybody doing today? It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, thank you for being here today. We are excited to have you, Laura. And we would love to hear one thing that is not in your bio, something that is interesting and cool, but just tease it right now, and we will hear more about this at the end.
So, one of the most important things for me as a professional involves Dole Whip and Main Street USA, along with some observation.
Wow, Dole Whip. So more on that to follow. So you were invited on the Business of Life Masterclass podcast for your unique ability to calm and appreciate families and all that you do to guide and lead people through healthcare journeys. I know that's so important. Since you have listened to our podcast, please share briefly what specifically made you want to be on the Business of Life Masterclass.
Well, there are a couple of reasons. The first is I love the positivity and what is right and what you can do. And so that really meshes with my personal philosophy. It's not about what can't be done, it's about what can you do today. And then the second thing is I love the fact that you take small steps which are sustainable. And so you don't try to climb a mountain all at once. You're taking progressive inclines to get to improvement. And I really think that's how you create sustainable improvement.
Well, love that. And thank you for your take on the Business of Life Masterclass podcast. But before Debbie gets into our podcast 4, that is our 4 questions, what is one thing that you are super excited about right now?
So one thing I'm really excited about is after almost 30 years in healthcare, I actually have started my own consulting company. And my goal is to give back to the community all of my learnings and the science-based improvements I've been able to do over the years. It was a big leap, but I took it. And I also wrote a book last summer, which comes out next month. And it's a practical and tactical how-to guide on how to improve the patient experience in healthcare.
Wow. Since you are excited about your new journey and new book, and we will absolutely promote that when it comes out, can't wait to read it. If you were to have one song as your life's walk-up music, what would that be?
So it's from The Greatest Showman, and my walk-up song is This Is Me, because I am unashamedly myself, and I live to my values, and if I'm doing the right things, I know that I'm in the right direction.
Ooh, well, that will be a good one to listen to. And I do know, so for our viewers and listeners, I know Barb already knows this. So Laura and I got connected about 5 years ago. So I can attest that she is is presenting who she is and how she is. And so The Greatest Showman is a fun reference for This Is Me. So thanks for sharing that.
Of
Now,
course.
Laura, you know how this works. We are moving into our podcast four that Barb teased you a little bit about. And these are those four questions that we ask every one of our guests. And we like to say that in case we have new listeners, because certainly we love to have new and experienced listeners along the journey. So are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Number one, what time do you get up in the morning? And importantly, what is the morning routine that you believe gets your day started right?
All right. So my internal clock wakes me up at about 5:15 in the morning. It's a holdover for when the kids were at home because that's the only time I had during the day to have some me time. So I sit, I have my cup of coffee, I read the news, and then my husband joins me a little bit later in the morning. And he and I, now that we've transitioned into this next stage of our life, now take a walk every morning. And we use it as an opportunity to talk about the big stuff and the small stuff and just to spend time with the two of us, which, considering the fact that I'm about to celebrate my 29th anniversary, I think is so important to make sure that you feed that relationship well.
Yeah, I hope everybody's hearing that. You know, it doesn't matter what stage you're in your relationship, but feed that relationship. Now, I'm curious, how much of the talk on that walk is about the kids?
A considerable amount. It doesn't matter how old they are. They're still your babies. They still let me check on them on Life 360. So that's one of the things I do in the morning to make sure they both made it home safely. They're wonderful kids. I am blessed with my children.
It's been fun to hear the stories over the years. All right. So, Laura, what is something other than that morning routine with the walk with your husband and still taking your me time that you believe if other people would do, it would set them up for additional level of success? Sometimes Barb calls this the special sauce or the extra umph.
So I actually refill my personal emotional bucket by finding joy and finding joy anywhere that I can. I really enjoy seeing other people being happy. So one small change I've made in my personal habits is that I don't say thank you anymore. And I know that sounds kind of strange, but I've changed what I say. Instead of kind of a rote thank you, I've begun to say, I appreciate you. And then I fill in what that person actually did for me. So I appreciate you taking such great care of me here in the Publix line. It really was a joy to work with you. And it takes an extra moment, but the joy you see in someone's eyes, they look up, they say, oh my God, you actually saw me. That's something that is a small step you can take, and it will completely change your interactions with others. So that's an example of something that I think will improve your life.
Yes, and what it does is it takes it from a level of acknowledgement to recognition. And
Yes.
that's something in the presenting powerfully practice we talk about. It's absolutely important to acknowledge. Look what you're doing though. You are giving that feedback for them that they're saying, this is what I can repeat doing. And you know what? Talk about the Publix line. It is so important to make that eye contact there. And that's a human being and they're doing a good job and they're part of your day. So what a good example for us to remember. Let's not breeze past people. Let's engage with them. All right.
Yeah.
So number three, who or what has been the biggest influence on your life, in your life? The success you've created in healthcare over this, 25 plus, as you said, 30 years, and this continued focus on the next phase in your life and all that's to come. And as you know, we like to know, what have you done with that influence?
Absolutely. So I thought about this really hard and I was thinking about my parents, different mentors I've had over the years. But honestly, the person who has influenced my life the most is my youngest child, my son Connor. And the reason why, so I always joke with people that I was a mature mommy. Meant that I could give my kids a lot more. It was just harder to get off the floor when I played with them when they were little. So my son Connor was born when I was already a senior level leader at a large academic medical center in Baltimore, Maryland. And he was a joy. He was a little early. And we knew that something wasn't quite the same as his sister pretty early on. He had his first hospital visit at 5 weeks old. And so at 10 months old, he got quite ill. And my son, after over a year journey, was diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune disease. It's called eosinophilic esophagitis. So how's that for a tongue twister? But it began a 10-year journey that we had to go on to identify exactly what was causing him to be so sick. and get him into remission. And during that journey, I noted a couple of things. On a personal level and professionally, the first thing that I noticed is that even though I was someone who was very familiar and, in fact, an expert on how to navigate health systems, when I got onto the other side of that bed rail, I struggled with this friction that made it almost impossible to navigate through the system. And it made me recognize that while I thought I knew what I was doing professionally, I knew nothing because I didn't have that patient's perspective of the healthcare journey. And it completely changed the way that I approached my job. It made me passionately patient-centric. It made me passionately focused on systems and processes over people. And it made me recognize that we have to acknowledge that we as an industry have a long road to travel. I'm hopeful that I made a little bit of a difference over the time since then. But then the second thing that Connor taught me was resilience and courage. And so he's 21 now. And as I said, he's in a remission, but he'll never be free from his disease process. So he still has lifelong limitations and very scary moments. I mean, he just a couple of, I was going to say a couple of years ago, it was actually about a year and a half ago, had his most recent trip to the emergency department for an anaphylactic reaction to seasoning put on broccoli. And so he lives his life always in fear, but he's such a wonderful human being, the most empathetic, kindest human being I've ever known in my life. And he doesn't want to be an imposition on anyone. And so seeing the way he approaches his disease has changed me, because if he can do that with his struggles, I should be able to do the same. So my son Connor is what has influenced me the most.
Well, I've heard about Connor. I haven't gotten to meet him, but hearing that story fully is truly inspirational because of the fact that here you are, an expert, a leader, an executive, and this hits, and instead of forcing him through this system, because you probably could have, you really learned from it. And that's so important. And it's a good reminder too that, our lessons learned don't have to be from people older. And sometimes we think of that like some sage, and yet your son being so courageous and empathetic has really brought that to you. So hopefully we get to meet him at some point. All right. So thanks for sharing that. And really, again, I know I said it earlier, but that's how I got connected with you with a challenge I had, and you handled it so beautifully that it really stood out. So thank you.
Well,
And nope, you know what? I'm not going to say so thank you. I'm going to say I appreciate that you did that for me. So here we can learn here too, right?
absolutely. And I appreciate that you had the courage to reach out and contact me so that we could learn and grow from your experience.
And now here we are, over 5 years later. This is
Yes.
terrific. All right. Well, number 4, you know that our series and ultimately the master classes that we've hosted and that we will in the future, and perhaps we could get one from you. We're not going to ask you right now, but on how to navigate this. We really want to focus on the positive, and you said that as part of the reason you wanted to be on the show. At the same time, Lara, we really do experience challenges, and sometimes, oftentimes, it's because of how other people are behaving. Now, is there something you see that we could stop doing, say in general, and that would create a more positive environment?
Sure. So there's a phrase that my team used to call them Larisms, and I would drive them crazy with these phrases I would come out with. But one of my favorites is everyone has a choice, and that choice is whether they're going to be a victim or a victor. And so a lot of times people fall into the trap of the woe is me. Oh my goodness, life is so hard. I think the universe is against me. Everyone's out to get me. Look at these horrible things that are happening to me. And I really believe that you can shift that and say that the only person you can control is yourself. And the person you have to be truest to is the person you see in the mirror. And so if things aren't going the way that you want them to go, or things feel like they're coming down on you, you have to say, how can I change my actions to change these outcomes? So you have to shift into that victor mode. And I have had, sure, many things that have happened that are unideal, but each time that happens, it feels like I've been able to learn from that, move forward from that, and find a new way of approaching things that are appropriate for me and my values and has driven me to a more positive place.
Well, I heard there were so many things in there, values, perspective, even if you didn't use that word, it's get a perspective on how things are and then move forward. So it's important, and it's okay to give ourselves like a tiny bit of time to feel disappointed, but not to be that victim. Definitely the victor, the way you said it. So the Laraism is sticking. So thank you for all of our podcasts for. I know we have a lot of insights here, and we appreciate that.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you about the 4 questions. I was excited.
Thank you, Laura. I am inspired and encouraged. A few things that I'm going to implement. I am moving into that empty nester stage of life, so I'm looking forward to maybe a walk with my husband and that empty nester bonding time. The 360, so encouraging him to let me keep the 360 on when he goes to college in a few short months. OMG. Finding joy has always been my mission, but I loved how you phrased the thank you and the appreciate. And Debbie, Publix, I go to Publix just about twice a day. So that's absolutely a place for me to start. So are you willing to embrace these ideas, maybe a couple extras, and share our results in an upcoming week on what we implemented and what worked?
Yes, you know I will. And you're appreciated for keeping the notes and keeping us on track. And really, I heard a lot of accountability in what Laura you shared. And so I made some notes. Certainly listening to the song is always fun. And really thinking about that internal clock. And we have, a variety of guests on at different times, and we've heard about the internal clock. And it's another reminder to go and see where and when I wake up and how I wake up, even that part from the morning routine, definitely, and the appreciation. So I often will say, you are appreciated for this, or you're really good at this. So I've gotten a new take on another way to say it. So I am ready for our implementation to be followed by the follow through. Absolutely.
Yep, one of my favorite parts. So, Laura, as we wrap up, please elaborate on Dole Whip.
So I mentioned that I get my personal emotional bucket filled by seeing joy in others. And, I used to joke that I got yelled at for a living. There's no name you can call me. I haven't been called before because I managed things that went wrong for a long time. So one of the things that I learned is I had to go from really disruptive situations to somewhere where there was pure joy. So I love Dole Whip. I get my Dole Whip. I sit on Main Street and I just watch the children come in on Main Street for the first time and see the castle. And watching a 5-year-old light up from inside, it reminds me how much goodness is in the world, and it re-energizes me. And the other thing that I've learned, that now that I've re-established my love of writing, is there are really nice chairs at Epcot you can sit in and write, and I'm inspired by being surrounded by happiness. The happiest place on earth is my happy place.
Wow, I see maybe a trip to Disney in our future, Debbie. I think that would be fun. So, Laura, what is one quick closing statement or even a single concept or mantra maybe that our listeners didn't get to hear yet?
So I think that the mantra that I'd say is that building on the choices we have, you can't do everything at once. There is a Desmond Tutu quote that I absolutely love. The only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. I think that if we look at big changes, it can feel very overwhelming. But if you break it up into small life-size chunks, we really can go so very far.
So far. That one it just makes you smile too. If you, I mean, it seems like a weird concept of picturing yourself eating an elephant, but then again, one bite at a time.
Yeah.
So you are appreciated for bringing so much joy to us and really being thoughtful in your answers, that you've clearly considered and given the show a lot of your attention. So now, as we get ready to say goodbye, since we know the greatest showman, and This Is Me would be your walk up music, when you're done, because you're doing keynotes now, you're delivering all of this material, you're going to do these book signings, what would be your walk-off music?
So we're going to go right back to The Greatest Showman and Hugh Jackman, who I didn't know could sing, but really, really can, sings a song called sings a song called From Now On. So we start with This Is Me, that personal accountability, and then he talks about from now on and talks about how he's going to change things, and it's a perfect sandwich to a conversation.
Thank you, Laura. I am going to add that to my list. I can't wait to listen.
Even though I've seen the movie, I don't know
Many
that
times.
song. Yes,
Yeah.
I don't know the song, so
Yeah.
that'll be fun as well to pick up on that.
It's a great soundtrack to put in the car and play really loudly.
Okay. Well, we certainly appreciate you sharing that. And please know, listeners, you can stay connected with Lara Klick on all social media under her name, Lara
Yeah.
Klick. You can find out about her business at Klick Advisors, as well as her Substack and her upcoming book. So we will share that. Similarly, you can follow Barb and me on Instagram and Facebook at the Business of Life Masterclass. Barb is the Stay at Work mom, and I'm Debbie Lundberg, most places, Debbie Lundberg Coach on TikTok. So if you want to enjoy some more content, please check out all of us, the three of us, in all those spots.
If you like the the insights that you heard, please rate us 5 stars. We are committed to providing you with 5-star guests and inspiration, just like Laura. Please provide us with feedback. We absolutely implement it. And stay tuned for our follow through show next week, where you learned how Debbie and I implemented Laura's ideas. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Business of Life Masterclass, the podcast for successful people embracing every chance to accomplish and experience all you can in business and in life.
Listen, choose, do. Thank you.
You know,
If you have ever thought, gosh, I'd like a collaborator, I wonder what else I could do, it's likely that the answer is a coach. Hi, I'm Debbie Lundberg, Performance and Mindset Coach with Presenting Powerfully. And if you would like confidential coaching to drive you to the next idea, the next role, or even to figure out your own brand, please reach out to us at Presenting Powerfully, 813-494-4438. Thank you.